Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tracy and Lou, for International Day of Rural Women, celebrating women in agriculture. We've come up with this podcast idea just so we can have an informal chat, really, with a nice cup of tea. So I hope everyone's got their tea ready and waiting. Yep. Yes, there we go. We'll do a cheers.
Cheers.
Beautiful for a Wednesday night. Is it? Yes, it's a Wednesday.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay, well, I'll do some reintroductions then. So I would say for those who haven't met me, obviously I work with Tracy, but Lou, my name is Alice. I am the RBST Scottish coordinator. So what I do is I implement the RBST's overarching strategies within a Scottish setting. So that's my sort of main day-to-day job. Tracy?
I am a conservation advisor for RBST and cover the whole of the UK, but at the moment predominantly England. So yes, I'm down here and Alice is up there.
How about yourself?
So I'm Lou, and I'm based over in Norfolk, and I run an organic farm with an educational element, working with children who struggle in the classroom. Obviously, I keep quite a lot of rare breeds.
Yes, we'll definitely get onto that. I think I'm itching to know all the rare breeds that you keep because, I mean, Tracy and I both have rare and native breed backgrounds, but I grew up in one of the RBST conservation farm parks. So I'm always very nosy to know what breeds people have.
Yeah, well, actually, my plan is to apply for the rare breed status for our farm. Yes, because we've got a new project coming up fairly soon where we will be opening to the general public to actually come and, do a lot of promotion on rare breeds and, community engagement and sustainable and farming, really.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Yeah, no, keep us posted on that, please. Okay, so what I would really like to know from both of you, it doesn't matter who goes first. We obviously said where home is for everyone, but I'd love to know, what do you farm or what you have farmed? What does a typical day look like in the world of Tracy and Lou?
In terms of farming wise, I've kind of crossed over from farming and conservation all my life. So grew up with small scale dairy farming, not my parents, but my great uncles and my nan, all farming backgrounds, small scale dairy. So spent all my childhood, every holiday, every weekend, every minute I could on the farm. Did the whole young farmers thing when I was a kid. But in recent years, it's been more conservation grazing. So my livestock has been, well, not mine, but I've worked with livestock for conservation organisations currently because of the day job with RBST and travel and lots of other things that go on in life. I haven't got any stock of my own at the moment, just a sheepdog.
And Lou, how about yourself?
Oh, right. So, yes, our farm obviously is organic, and I work with vulnerable adults and children with mental health learning difficulties, a lot of social emotional mental health issues, sort of children that struggle in classrooms. So I provide a education program where they come and learn about organic farming, sustainable farming, and all of that kind of thing. So that's my main day-to-day, but we're teaching them, we were a working farm with an on-site butchery, so they're following the whole processes of, raising pigs and then, loading them onto the trailer ready to go off to the abattoir. They follow the whole process, and they've got actually these kids have got so much better understanding of that process than some adults, and they're not at all put off or squeamish by it. They're very much, oh yeah, this pig's had piglets, they'll be ready for sausages in however many months time. So it's like really encouraging in that sense that they're all really engaging with how their food gets where it is, which is quite nice. But yeah, we've got traditional rare breed pigs. We've got two different breeds, Gloucester Old Spots and large blacks. and then we're running a flock of Jacob sheep, and I've got Norfolk horns.
Oh,
And
nice.
yes, and I'm about to pick up some Leicester Longwools.
Yes.
Yes, so I'd like to have a very small flock of sort of fibre sheep. Because again, with some of my students, we're going to be making wet felt rugs and doing weaving and things. And I just think a nice little fibre flock would be a good idea.
Absolutely, yeah. And do you come from a farming background yourself, or is it
Not at
completely
all.
new?
Not at all.
Right,
It all
okay.
started from far too many episodes of The Good Life and River Cottage. And
Hugh
when our
Fernley Whitting
children,
stall has got to
yeah,
pay
well,
for
when
it.
our children were quite small, we were living in Norwich, which is a city near where we live, and
Yep.
our kids were small, and we just wanted to be a little bit more sort of self-sufficient, and that escalated from there to
Yep.
now an 84-acre farm. So
Very
yeah, started off
nice.
with an allotment and a few chickens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
so it
growing
escalates
from
quite
there.
quickly.
I love that.
Hugh Fernley Whittingstall definitely has a lot to answer for. I spent 8 years in Ireland on my own small holding, so yes, I know exactly how that
It
story goes.
escalates rapidly. You start off with we've got 4 chickens, and then the next minute you've got 40 chickens, and you start off with 6 sheep, and the next thing you've got 60 sheep.
Just keep sneaking them in. No one will know. It's absolutely fine. Tracy and I actually saw Hugh Fernley Whittingstall at Groundswell Show this year, didn't we? And
Yeah,
we
he was
sort of
there.
walked
Yeah.
past, and I looked, and he looked at me. I think because he thought, "Do we know each other?" But I just went, "Oh, it's Hugh Fernley Whittingstall." I should have gone to say hi, but I wasn't brave enough. So I guess for both of you then, very different backgrounds. Lou not coming from an agri background, Tracy coming from an agri background. Lou, I'd be really interested. I know you've just said that what kind of, sparked your interest in agriculture was watching The Good Life. But is there anything within agriculture that really you hold dear to your heart? Like what would, if someone said to you, you've got to get out of agriculture, what would ever be the reason? Like what I'm trying to get is what's your passion? What's that something that solidified you to really stick into agriculture?
Again, I think it is to do with the rare breeds and working with them, preserving them, and just knowing and engaging with your food and knowing where it comes from and how it gets there. So for us, it is all about sustainability and seasonability and understanding all these processes and trying to then get that in understanding into other people. I think that is actually, it is all stems with food. That's where it started, and then gone from there. Obviously, I love sheep, are my favourite, and lambing is the best time in the whole world. No matter how exhausting and all-consuming it is, that is just the best feeling.
Yeah. I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I think certainly for me, now Tracy, I'm sure you'll agree that it's the hardest time of the year that makes you keep going, because it's that resilience and it's the drive to just, even though you're absolutely shattered, and if it's lambing and your hands are all dry, you've been up for months at an end, twin lamb disease has hit, or someone's not lambed, or there's been an accidental triplets and everyone's lambing at once when they're not supposed to lamb at once. It's that stress, isn't it, that you just go, oh, I love being a part of this.
And for me, it's that, like you say, that busyness, when you sort of finally do get to sit down for a couple of hours of an evening and you just collapse in the chair and you think, it was difficult, but you just feel like you've really achieved something. I think that's a really nice feeling.
And it's that achievement. I guess there's lots of really big milestones in agriculture for anyone, whatever enterprise they're going through. But Lou, what's your sort of biggest I can do this moment as a woman in agriculture? Did you ever have a moment, Lou, where
Yes. And again, that goes back to lambing, my very first lambing. So as I say, I've had no experience. So we had our first sheep, Castle McMorris, handful. And Yeah, never kept sheep, no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And the very first one had a difficult birth. And yeah, I think that was the turning point. And so my husband was on the phone to the vet. Um, I've got my hand up the sheep, and my husband's relaying instructions from the vet while I'm on the phone, going in my pajamas, going, I don't know what I'm doing. And you've got your hand in there, and he's instructing me on how to get the lamb out because it was coming out in a Superman, which I did. And then he's right, you need to see if there's another one. It's like, but I don't know what that feels like. And you put your hand in there, rummage, and it's like, I don't think there's another one, but I've got no idea. I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling for. So then only later, when I then assisted the next sheep, put your hand, it's like, oh, that's what it's like
Yeah.
when there's a second one. But it's just those things where you go from having no clue to actually, look, I've just done that.
Yeah.
That is probably one of my favourite moments, having these instructions shouted down the phone from the vet to me. With just, I don't know, I think about now. Um, Lambing, it sounds really silly, but I feel I really come into my own at lambing time now
Yeah.
because I've over decades of experience, and this year I had some coming out backwards and all sorts of things, but I don't even bat an eyelid anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just like instantly, I just know what I'm doing. But yeah, that very first one with no clue, and I don't know what I'm supposed to be feeling. What is that? Whereas now you put your hand in, you go, oh yeah, that's back to front, or that's a leg, that's an arm,
Yeah.
or yeah. So I think that's probably one of my favourite moments, that first delivery of my first lamb.
And it's always when you're in your pajamas, isn't it? That's when everything kicks off.
Always.
You're in your
Yeah.
jammies.
My kids have gone to school late, and I've been covered in lamb goo because we've just gone to, we'll just quickly check before we go on the school run.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my youngest daughter ended up going late in assembly with bits of like goo on her tights because she'd had to quickly help me. But her school were really good, and they knew not to expect her to be late at certain times. So it's
We've all
lambing,
been
that's why
there.
she's late. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story. And Tracy, what about you then? What was your biggest I can do this moment as a woman in agriculture?
Oh goodness. I don't know if I can really sort of remember one. I mean, I do have a very early memory I don't know how old I would have been, 7, 8, something like that. And I remember calving with my great uncle, and it was his favourite cow. And at the time, it was a small dairy farm, so he had almost like stables. So when they were due to calve, they would be in almost like a stable,
Yeah.
almost like individual stables, because he only had about 30 cows. And it was his favourite cow, and it was the most horrendous thunderstorm and hailstorm you've ever
Oh,
seen, like golf ball hailstorm. And he and I were sort of in the stable. We had to shut the door, the top door as well, because it was that bad of weather.
yes.
And anyway, this cow was not going too well, and I could tell he was really upset because it's his favourite cow. And but the two of us just got on with it. We did what we could and worked away at it, and the calf was born. Cow was okay. The hail stopped, and I will never forget that memory for the rest of my life. And I was probably only 7, 8, something like that. It's just things like that, you just, like you said, Alice, you just
Yeah.
get stuck in, you just get on with it in those situations. And I love those situations where your instinct sort of takes over, and you just get on with things. And um
Yeah.
yeah, fingers crossed it goes well. But yeah, I will always remember that.
I love that. I think we all have those sticking points in our minds, don't we, where it's the tough moments that make the difference. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've cried in the lambing tunnel just from sheer exhaustion and stress.
Yeah.
It always seems to be the way, particularly when I had my farm, which was, Dad would go off to Harborough or do something, and everything was quiet. The minute he left the farm, pandemonium. All the ewes decided now is the time. I love sheep, but we've got a Marmite relationship, me and sheep. I love sheep, but they can test you sometimes. Um, so, going back to native breeds then, because obviously all of us are in the native breed circle, which is amazing. Lou, what made you decide to get native breeds in the first place? On your journey, what interested you in native breeds?
So it's always, right from the very beginning, we've always gone a native breed, especially if we can to where we are.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've been there for centuries, so they, you know, they've adapted to live in the areas we are. So it's always been something we've done right from the beginning. So we've always kept you know, large blacks because they're native to East Anglia and Cornwall. And obviously a little bit slower with the Norfolk Horns. My husband's always wanted Norfolk Horns, but we actually started off with Castle Milk Moritz.
Yeah.
And the Jacobs, but which aren't a native breed, so much, but they're my favourite. But yes, my husband has been after Norfolk Horns for ages, so we're now building up a good sized flock of Norfolk Horns. Because again, we're in Norfolk, so we should have, and they need all the help we can get. But always pigs more so, because obviously they're, you know, people don't think of as pig as being an endangered species, but when you look at it, there are, what is it, under five, there's about just over 500 Gloucester old spots and 300 and something or other large blacks now. And you know, the kids are always completely mind blown that actually there are less large blacks than there are pandas. You know, and we're working with some really pretty rare lines with our large blacks. They're in, you know, a couple of them in single figures of how many of that particular line of large blacklets. That's really key for us, is to be working with those rare breeds and then the rare lines within those rare breeds.
Yeah, fair. It's such an important thing to do. It really, really is. Like you say, a lot of the breeds, even if they seem to be quite thriving in numbers or low in numbers, then it's those specific bloodlines which really are going to make a difference if you breed for them. So absolutely. Okay, so Tracy, we're gonna spin the conversation around, and I'm gonna ask you. Don't worry, not what came first, the chicken or the egg, nothing like that. What obstacles do you think you faced in your career as a woman in agriculture? How have you overcome them? Now, obviously, this is not about us sort of, you know, bashing anyone. It's just our own experiences about any obstacles that we faced as women in an agricultural setting.
Well, I mean, before an agricultural setting, the thing I think that really I remember as at secondary school was my first careers sort of whatever talk, well, not careers talk, but interview that they did at secondary school back then. I'm talking a long time ago. I'm talking a few decades ago now. But I literally, at that age, I think I was about 13, I wanted to be a farm manager. It's all I've ever wanted to do when I was a kid. That was it. And I went into that careers meeting, and they literally laughed at me. It was like, you know, you must be joking. You don't come from although I came from farming, there was no farm in the family. So it wasn't like I was going to step into actually, you know, going onto the family farm. And, you know, there was quite a hint at the fact that I was female. And yeah, no, it was just completely disregarded and not, you know, not encouraged, not supported. And I think it did, you know, it did sit with me at that age, and it did change some of the decisions I made. And so when I first left school, I went into conservation rather than agriculture, and took the countryside management route, because I really felt like it wasn't the industry for me. And I've sort of come a long winding road sort of back into through having my small holding in Ireland and going back to uni and stuff, sort of slowly made my way back into agriculture and livestock, really. So yeah, that would be, I think, the main sort of initial stumbling block for me was that.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, no, I can appreciate it's difficult at a young age being maybe not directly told no, but maybe just sort of given a bit of an odd look of that's a strange career choice. And Lou, how about yourself? Have you had any obstacles that you face as a woman in agriculture?
Because I've come slightly later in life, so a lot of time I don't pay attention, because if I'm going to do something, that's what I'm going to do. So other people's opinions, you know, don't pay too much attention. If I've decided this is the path I'm going to go on,
Yeah.
that's the path I'm going to go
Yeah.
on. But also, again, because I'm not from an agriculture background, I'm not weighed down with the same, oh, it's always been done this way. I find I'm a little bit freer to just give things a go, because I haven't got generations of knowledge and tradition on me.
Yeah.
So actually, for me, it's a little bit easier, because I can just go, oh, I'm going to give this a go, because I don't have that heritage weighing me down.
Yeah.
But
An
again,
interesting point, actually. I've never really thought about it like that. Tracy, have you sort of the generations of the knowledge, and maybe feeling like there's a certain
Yeah, I
aspect of
think that
should we do
probably
this?
was sort of part of it, like I said about the sort of school time and not sort of being supported and encouraged. I think, there was probably a little bit of an element as well as to why I went the conservation route to begin with, because of that sort of almost, sort of, if you're not going to follow this sort of traditional route of agriculture at
Mm.
that time, then you're sort of not a part of this space. And yeah, I think I probably agree with that in some elements. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but it's a difficult avenue to get into anyway, if you're not from that agricultural background. And that's not just for gut, it's hard anyway
Yeah.
to get into, so even more so for a girl. I
Mm-hmm.
should imagine there's, if you've got a handful of people going for a, farmhand job, whether they're more experienced or not, an old farmer is always going to choose the young lad over, the more than capable girl any time. So
Mm-hmm.
because it is, and it is such a hard path to get into. I've been really lucky, um, to be where I am. We started off as small holes, and I've then been lucky enough to now have a Norfolk County Council tenancy. So I've got a Norfolk County Council farm. It's been hard work to get it, but I've been very lucky. And without that, it would have been very difficult.
You absolutely, you make a good point there. Not just for women, but agriculture in general. It is difficult with new entrants coming in. Whether who you are, what walk of life you come from. And in my experience, even though I grew up on a farm, my dad was first generation farmer, so none of his family farmed. My mother's side did, but his family didn't farm. But where my farm was situated, there were no other farms around me. So I grew up with all my friends don't know farming. So, and the young farmers was the other side of town for me, about, an hour drive. So I never was integrated really into a young farmers community. So all of my friends who farmed were my dad's friends. And don't get me wrong, if you're watching, if you're listening, I love you all. But it was very difficult for me, being younger. But then I suppose the flip side is I was lucky enough to get a lot of knowledge from a lot of different people. So hopefully I've stopped digging myself a grave there. Right, I'll move on to the next question. Okay, let's talk about innovation and sort of diversification, right? So we've all spoken about how we've got into farming, why we love our native breeds, why we keep them. But how about we focus on creativity and new ideas that we've brought into our farming careers or our farming enterprises? So, Lou, how about you? Have you diversified? Have you got creative? What things have you implemented into your farming life?
Well, we've built our own on-site butchery for a start.
Amazing.
Well, yes, we were getting, as smallholders, it's really difficult. So, we'd lovingly raise these animals, and then struggle to find a butcher that would then do private work. And then when you did find one, they don't give it the same love that you've put into getting it to that far. They'll just, shove your sausages in a bag, there's your stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Or
yeah.
we found a lot of the time is that they claim to know better, so they just give us what they could be bothered to cut, really.
Mm.
And actually, then with all the rising costs as well, it was becoming really difficult. So we decided, well, we'll build our own. And once we then became organically certified anyway, little loophole, little I don't know, I've forgotten my words now. So you can raise your animals from organic,
Yep.
but then unless you use a certified organic butchery,
They're
you
not
can't sell it
organic
as organic.
They're not certified.
Yeah, they don't mention that until they get you signed up. And then, so where we are, there's very few organic butcheries, certainly not where we live. In fact, we are the second organic butchery in East Anglia.
Wow.
So yeah, so well, we'll build our own then, and that's been wonderful because we've now got complete control over all of our produce from start to finish. And yeah, then we're actually now supplying the other organic butcher with pork every couple of weeks.
Oh, amazing. I've not had my dinner yet, so you're making me quite hungry.
And I think I am having sausages for dinner tonight, so that's
I would say, can I come to yours? But we're some miles apart.
a little bit.
Yeah. Tracy, what about you then? Diversification and creativity.
I guess in Ireland, when I had a small holding, slightly and aside from the livestock side of it, that was kind of my hobby. And then we also had a landscaping business, and I built a garden centre as well, independent garden centre. So on the small holding, as well as having, so I grew food and raised livestock predominantly for friends and family. And the plant side of things was the business side that sort of brought the main incomes in. So yeah, that, and when I got back to the UK from Ireland, I got quite involved in both the micro dairy sort of industry because I did my dissertation on it, and also the community supported ag network. So I was a director of that when I came back from Ireland. So two sort of slightly different but related parts of farming, I guess, that are a little bit maybe probably better known now, but back then, weren't so mainstream. So looking at different models of farming really as well.
Fantastic. It's interesting really just to hear everyone's own experiences, which is, the main thing. And what I'm actually really interested to hear from both of you is that obviously, Tracy, I work with you, so I know that you've got kids. Lou, you said that you've got children. So first of all, Tracy, did you ever find it difficult balancing the work, farming, kid life, and how did you kind of overcome those struggles?
My life in Ireland was, well, it was mental. It was insane. I had the small holding, 2 businesses, 4 children, and I was doing my master's in organic farming, going from Ireland to Aberdeen, back and forth. So yeah, difficult wasn't the word for it. I don't think I slept for about 5 years, which is probably very silly and not very good for your health, and I really wouldn't recommend it. But at the same time, it was an amazing opportunity to do all those things simultaneously. And my kids got to see it, and they grew up on the small holding and had that life for a number of years before we came back here. So I think it has really grounded them in a slightly different way than perhaps some of their peers, and it shows now that they're sort of virtually adult, that they, even though they might not go into that industry, they've got a very strong connection to the land and their food. And I think that directly came from sort of how they grew up, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Lou, how about yourself? How did you balance your family and your agricultural work, or if you worked aside from that in a different job? Like, how did you manage the balance?
To be honest, I don't even know if I did. You just you just have to get on with all those, your massive to-do list, and you might get a chance to clean the kitchen or you might not. I think the biggest thing is just letting go of all the little stresses and just, right, this is what I need to do. This is our list. If I don't sweep the floor today, I'll try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just not beating yourself up about not getting all those things done. And my kids just, they mucked in when they needed to. And sometimes tea might be really late.
Yeah. It's nice though. I suppose there's a balance within agriculture, but there's also that same balance that can happen with your family. It's an ebb and flow, isn't it? Like you say, sometimes tea's gonna be late. Sometimes you're not going to get your breakfast till whatever time. sometimes you're going to be up half the night. It's, you know, you've just got
sometimes you're going to school after you've helped deliver a lamb.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or, you know, you're standing in the school playground picking them up and you suddenly realise you smell of pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been there before. There's a picture of me somewhere in one of the school, I don't know, it wasn't the school papers. Was it recently? There was a picture of me when I was helping one of my friends lambing, and I'm holding this lamb, and I realised just down my back is just straw and lamb. I was gonna swear there accidentally.
Ew.
There was just lamb poo, but you know, like the first poo of lambs, just after it goes black, you know, the lovely creamy yellow poo, all down my back, and I was like, well, listen, it's good for the skin, isn't it? Great. So again, kind of focusing on on family and balance, I'm really interested to know what role do you both think women play in shaping a sustainable, forward-thinking agricultural landscape? Because obviously over the past 30 years or so, I think women's roles and dare I say go as far as say respect in agriculture, I think has really changed. You know, you're seeing a lot more women do agricultural courses, be not just land managers or estate managers, but also taking farm management and shepherdesses and etc. etc. So Tracy, you first. What role do you think women play in shaping a forward-thinking agriculture?
Well, I think, you know, you're dead right about sort of the different sort of, I think there is a change in respect, and that's probably partly why I went back and did my master's in organic farming, because I think, I don't know whether it's a personal thing or whether it is being a female, that I certainly put more pressure on myself to go above and beyond,
Yeah.
because I probably feel that I do have to go that extra mile to just, they say, don't they, that men will go for a job that they're 50% qualified for, and women will go for a job that they're 120% qualified for. And I do think that's quite true. And I feel that myself, I do it myself. So I think, you know, in terms of, you know, that, I mean, the range of courses that are out there now means that there's so much more choice. And I think, you know, in terms of creativity and diversification, but also on the technical side of things, I don't see the gap like I used to. I just think that all aspects of agriculture are open to us now, really.
Absolutely. And Lou, do you agree with that, or do you have anything else to add? Sort of what role women play?
There is certainly a lot more. It is a lot more open for girls, and a lot more girls are actually going, well, yeah, I can do that. You know, so with all of the students that I work with, actually the majority of them are girls, and I've got a couple with me now who, yeah, she's going to go far. You know, she's 15 now, and she's been talking to me the other day. She's now looking into how she can get to do her tractor license, and you know, she lives and breathes agriculture. She comes and helps me in the holidays, so she's with me as a student a couple of days a week, and then it comes to the holidays, she's like, oh, can I come in? I don't want to stay at home. And she'll then come and help do farm jobs, and she is, I would, when she gets older, I would have her work for me any day of the week. She is so competent and so hands-on and practical, and I don't ever think, oh no, she won't be able to do that because she's just a girl. And I really, with my students, and I often have some cocky lads who we'll go and push a hay bale, and they're, oh yeah, we can do this, and so actually just me and this young lady here will do that, we don't need you, thanks. And it's quite nice, you know, they're all more than capable of doing exactly the same jobs, and I very much make it clear to all of my students, and especially the boys, that there's no such thing as jobs for girls and jobs for boys. They're just jobs, and we are all capable of doing them. So hopefully I'm giving some of these younger girls who are interested in going into that school the confidence to be able to go forth and do that, because they're going to be, well, yeah, and I'm more than capable, just as capable of doing this as anybody else.
I love that. And you're absolutely right. It's that, you know, instilling, I think, on a wider purpose, the confidence in any young person to say you can do this. I think that's the most important thing in any walk of life. It's just having that encouragement. You know, I'm always amazed when, you know, I can do something I never thought I could do, and it's just having that wee encouragement to go, no, you can, you know, you absolutely can. I love that. Okay, well, let's do some final reflections then. So what's one thing in farming, especially in a native breed setting, that has brought to your life that you're most grateful for? So kind of, you know, what's one thing in farming that you are really, really grateful for that you've got in your life? Lou, we'll start with you.
Oh, do you actually just having my sheep? I love my sheep, and I love working with sheep, even when they're at their most difficult. There's nothing nicer than that smell of their fleece on your hands. And yeah, you know, going through lambing and watching them grow, and then you go and check them in the field and you suddenly realise they're these huge, massive lambs pronking around, all lovely and healthy. And just sheep. I just love sheep, really.
There's nothing wrong with that. We love sheep too. Tracy?
Yeah, I think
If you
it's
say you're
just all
grateful
that.
working with me, I'll take that. It's
Of
fine.
course,
So, yeah.
that goes without saying. I am so grateful for you. I really am. I think it's just all the times over the years where, you know, I just love that. My favourite thing is just where you just go and check your stock, and you just think to yourself, I'm not in a rush. I'm just going out into the field, and it's just me and the stock, and it's just that. I just absolutely love that time when you're just out there and just, you know, you're just wandering around the fields and you're like, yeah, you're okay, yeah. And, you know, I think it's the best feeling in the world, really.
Yeah, I love that.
No, definitely.
Absolutely. Well, listen, thank you both so very much for joining. It's been absolutely amazing to talk to you, Lou, and also for you and Tracy to share your experiences. Like, thank you so much. And yeah, I really hope that we can get you both on another RBST podcast very soon.